Thank you so much for joining in for the AgTalks by AgriERP, and we are delighted to have you here. Before we get started with the question and answers, I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience. Give a brief overview about yourself, what you have been doing in the industry, how long have you been here, what are your areas of expertise, and all. So, anything that you want to share with our audience, feel free, please.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your invitation, and I'm really thrilled to be here with you today and with your audience. My name is Alfredo Nuno, and I am a Mexican national, and I've been in the value chain of coffee for most of my professional career that spans for now more than 20 years. I have had the chance to really know this value chain from end to end, from the field to the shelf, if you allow me. And in the middle, having the opportunity to work with really interesting people in the production side of things, and also in the as part of the industry with very leaders, true leaders in this particular segment of the economy.
Okay, and Alfredo, you're based in Mexico or you're based in the US region? And I think in your profile says you're based in currently in Switzerland.
Yes, I am based currently in Switzerland, actually.
Okay.
It's a nice city called Lausanne in the French speaking side of Switzerland, and I've been here for a number of years already. And yeah,
Okay. Okay. All right. I think I'll just get started with a few questions, and I would like you to be the one doing most of the talking throughout the interview, though, based on the questions, of course. Okay. I think so. Let's start from this, Alfredo. So, with your background in market research and business development, and as you mentioned that you have been involved in the value chain of coffee specifically, how do you analyze the current global market trends impacting the agribusiness sector as a whole as well, and then specifically around coffee as well?
sure.
And what are the most, just the second phase of that question is, what are the most significant opportunities that you have identified and been able to implement and get some benefits out of them?
This is a really interesting question. It is true that we all are living through very hectic times. Just to put it mildly, we all went through that pandemic just recently. I guess that exacerbated a lot of the things that were already simmering in the industry, not just for coffee, but in reality in all across our lives. But specifically for the industry, for the coffee, a part of that havoc,
Hmm.
we have a greater challenge, if that is possible, which is the climate change. Yeah, and it is somehow affecting all of us.
Hmm.
But when you talk to the people in the agricultural sector, regardless where you are, because it's something that you can feel here in Switzerland, in Africa, Latin America, all across the world. No one is spared
True.
particular phenomenon that we all are living. And that is presenting very specific challenges for the farmers, smallholding farmers in particular. When it comes to coffee, most of this product is produced by smallholders farmers, yeah, across the coffee belt around the world that perhaps your audience know is situated between the tropics and all along equator. Is there in this tropical zone where you have the main production areas, and it's right there that you can see literally physically the effects of the climate change. Yeah, when it comes to high quality Arabica coffee, which it happens that I got very much specialized in this type of product itself, it's a product that tends to grow. The higher it grows, higher altitude above the sea level, tends to be higher quality
Hmm.
because the day the days are not that hot and the nights tend to be cooler. But as we continue experiencing this global warming, days are hotter, nights are less cooler, and all of a sudden the quality of the coffee starts to suffer as a general statement. But there is also, and this is one of the biggest challenges, is that you will have regions that are low altitude. that because of all of this, all of a sudden they will become unfit to produce coffee. They become marginal areas for coffee. Yeah, which is I may say, a tragedy for that farmer because coffee was or is intended to be the way of living, the cash crop for that person. There is not a lot of opportunities to move the farmer up the mountain. Perhaps in the slopes, when you go higher, and I've seen increase of altitudes to grow coffee of 200 meters in altitude in a span of 20 years. 200 meters doesn't sound that much, but when you are in a mountain, try to climb 200 meters, it's a lot. It's a lot. And the mountains, of course, they have a limit because of the geography on itself, or because maybe there are forests in those areas. And the society, the global economy, Europe in particular, they don't want coffee that was grown in recently deforested areas. So that adds another challenge to that particular value chain, right? So those are the challenges that they have, right? All of a sudden, because of this climate change, climate disturbances, you will have regions that are not any longer ideal for growing coffee. The areas that are in the middle, they will yield perhaps coffees with another quality, certainly with much exposure to pests and diseases. And then you will have a ceiling in the sense that beyond that, potentially you could grow coffee, but then perhaps you are facing a forest, an area that you don't want to enter. We wouldn't like to go there, and just for the sake of conservation of that landscape. So this is the dilemma, right? That the coffee farmers are facing. At the same time, you have powerhouses in coffee production, such as Brazil, Vietnam, that of course they are not immune to this kind of situations. And just recently, we saw the global prices, futures market, that it is the benchmark to define the prices of these commodities, hitting all-time highs. Actually, as we are speaking, prices are actually subsiding a little bit because of rains in Brazil. They went up because lack of rains, both in Brazil and Vietnam. And with this lack of forecasted rains, there was a subsequent forecasting of reduced production. And then you have the balance between offer and demand disturbed. All of a sudden, the offer is lower, the demand continues to grow, not only in the northern hemisphere, the developing countries are also increasing their consumption of coffee, which is a good thing, of course, generally speaking. But then all of a sudden, you have these disturbances in the offer, in the supply side of things, because of climate. So here we have all the elements of this very complicated problem, seemingly complicated. Now, what are the solutions? Are there solutions out there for this? I believe they are. Solutions are not straightforward, and it is not like a magical recipe that you can apply everywhere. But indeed, one of the biggest gaps that I've seen during my career, and that prompts more exposure to this kind of disruptions in the climate behavior, is productivity. Yeah. When you have coffee farmers, and for that matter, any farmer, that it is not producing to a reasonable level, to a satisfactory level of productivity, the income of that household is going to be affected, is going to be in jeopardy. Yeah. And that immediately will question the viability, the economic viability of that household. Yeah. So productivity is something that is going to be affected by the effects of the climate change. And it is right there where I believe there are potential solutions and specific interventions that the whole industry, the whole system, because here we are talking of the industry, but there is the consumer side of things. And the consumer, it plays an important role, not only as a consumer, that goes without saying, but also as an actor that could influence the direction of where all these efforts go. And I will come back to that in a moment. Yeah, lately you have heard, perhaps your audience may have heard about regenerative agriculture, agroecology. They even talk about organic, go back to organic production. Some of those ideas are sound and perfectly applicable. Some others, I have my personal doubts. For instance, I am not deprecating this practice, but organic. The fact that you are putting or not putting necessary inputs in the specific field, failure to do that, the plants are not going to respond as you wish. Productivity is going to suffer, right? However, I am not saying that everybody should put just all the inputs, artificial inputs, as they come and they just make something horrible there, because I am not saying that. There must be technique, there must be know how, right? To apply what is really needed in this specific plot. And here I am talking about something that you can refer in a larger perspective as a technological transfer, because it's not only the application of fertilizers or the best practices to be followed and secure in a coffee plot. It's the whole package. Certified seeds, yeah, varietals that are pest resistant, pest and disease resistant. Find the inputs, artificial inputs that are produced, and this is a big deal when it comes to carbon emission gases, inputs that are produced in a blue or green way, meaning with a lower carbon footprint, which actually is a big challenge in the industry. Fertilizers, they have a high carbon footprint in the production and the transport, and that will go in the scope 3 for when you look at the carbon footprint of a specific value chain, and that it will account for anywhere between the 60 to 70% of the total greenhouse gases emissions in one specific coffee plot. So that's an issue, right? Conservation agriculture, no tillage. I've seen still in these days some parts of the world where people with the hoe they break the ground and they think this is a good practice. Not necessarily. There are in some countries they are using very efficient cover crops, clover, for instance, to maintain the weeds under control while minimizing the requirement of using of herbicides. That's part of the smart agriculture that can be and should be applicable. All of this has a cost, yeah. And this is where I was talking that sometimes the consumers should play a more active role, because they should be favoring, as consumers, they have the power of the consumer. They should be electing or preferring coffee that has been produced in this way. So there is this element of incentive all across the value chain to promote these practices. Yeah, there are already some companies that are doing this kind of approach already intrinsic, already embedded in the procurement practices. Whilst some other companies, not naming any names, but taking a more lighter approach, saying, yes, I am going to have this seal and I am going to sell it, but there is not true depth in the sense that they that supply chain doesn't go further down to the actual producer. I know it's a challenge because here we are talking of millions of smallholder producers. And to have that depth of action is a challenge. I recognize it. However, now in these amazing times we are living, there are the techniques to actually touch base at that level of profundity. I am talking, for instance, applications, mobile applications. And there is this, when I knew that back in the day in East Africa, for me, it was like amazing. This probably this tool called M-Pesa is a way to transfer cash between farmers.
Oh, yeah.
And it is not with a smartphone, it's with a dumb phone, if you allow me the expression. So it's very basic, however, very effective. And the farmers, perhaps against many preconceptions some people may have, they are very smart. When they see something that makes sense and provides value, they will jump on the opportunity. However, it must be made in such a way that it is reachable, it is easy to get, it's not an extra cost for them, because otherwise, if it is just a cost, like for instance, one of the critiques that the recent European Union deforestation regulation is that they put an extra burden in the smallholder, right? Because they have to provide geolocation of the coffee plot. Below 4 hectares, just a point. Above 4 hectares, the full perimeter, the full polygon of the farm. Okay, they will do that. Against what? Yeah, who's going to recognize that effort? There is a lot of information that will be generated. The ones generated the information will be most likely the farmers, but the market is not ready to recognize that particular effort and value that they are adding already. Don't get me wrong, I am not against full traceability to ensure that there are no deforestation. I'm all in for against deforestation. However, the measures and any other approach must be smart enough, again, to have a willing participant from the farmer side, trusted value players, aggregators, exporters, B2B multinationals, responsible retailers, and again, an informed public, an informed consumer that will favor with their patronage all these efforts. Maybe I'm talking about a very rosy picture, but I know, for instance, some experience, my own experience, some of these schemes actually work, right? Perhaps one of the things that it is also important is that when you are working with a smallholder, with a community, with a cooperative, yeah, it is important to have long-lasting relationships. Yeah, many of the interventions that will happen at a farm level, you cannot see the results tomorrow, day after tomorrow. You will see the results 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. And that's important that once you engage with this community, there are a continuity in the business, not only in the intervention, but again, it's a matter to see it holistically. It's not only the best practices at the farm, productivity must be there, agroforestry, coverage crops to protect the soil, proper agronomic management of the plants, rejuvenation, good varieties, best varieties, proper fertilization, productivity, processing in the places where there is a primary process. I am talking here coffee, and I am talking washing the coffee, wash the coffee in a way that is respectful of the environment, using low flow washing systems that they don't affect at all the quality of the coffee. Yeah. Then proper drying, maintaining that quality, ensuring that that quality is going to receive the best available price in the market when that product hits the market. Yeah. So here, and we are not talking yet about the price. We are talking higher productivity per area, higher yields of that high quality product, and then premium for quality. And here's the key point: the ability of that product to enter world class supply chains with world class retailers, specialty roasters that will be ready to say, yes, I want that product. Here is the premium. I want full transparency. I want to make sure that the premium I am paying here to the seller is going to be transferred to the ones that are actually producing the value of the coffee. Yeah. So it's fascinating. Sounds perhaps a little bit how you say that in English, like the quixotical, I guess you would say in English. However, I know by experience that it is doable, it is possible. It requires commitment, of course, commitment from all the parties, starting from the farmers.
Yeah,
They must be
definitely.
convinced and they must see value, but then all across the supply chain. Yet again, and again, I am not trying to pin all the responsibility on the consumer. And not in these days where also there is inflation pressure. The households in the Northern Hemisphere are seeing regular income reduced because of this inflationary pressure. So when you compound all the different aspects, climate change, yes, or of course, is a huge challenge, but it is then compounded and making a even more complicated, convoluted situation when you put together all these different aspects. So perhaps to sum up is that it is not doomsday for the production of coffee, I believe. However, there is a lot of work to be done ahead in terms of supporting these communities, these producers, providing technique, establishing alliances to find out possibilities of blended finance. Yeah, the discovery of partnerships from the roasting, retail, community, the development banks, the different governments and development agencies, B2B multinationals, etc. All the players can really make a big change, a big impact.
Great, Alfredo. I think you have really summed it up pretty well and stretched it out completely in a way that you have answered, I think, multiple already. So I just we are actually on the clock. I have to have a hard stop. I do have one or two more questions around technology side of things. I think you have
Please,
already covered all the challenges and the solutions that you think are something. Coming on to the technology, the innovation side, the fact that you already have a very strong focus on innovation. The first thing is that I want to know is from a technological standpoint, where do you see it in like the farming process and the whole retailers and all the other players that are involved in the consumer? What are some of the most exciting and impactful innovations emerging in the agribusiness first? And then secondly, you mentioned about productivity, right? We ourselves at AgriERP, the goal, of course, with the maximize that productivity, boost the operational efficiency of the way the things are managed within the farms, how effective the workforce is, how the time is being tracked, how much fertilizer is being applied. All of those activities, it's very crucial that they all are tracked in a way that you are consuming everything optimally, right? And of course, I
yes,
think that leads to like basically increasing your productivity. So what AgriERP is, it's an ERP system, right? So from your perspective, how can digital, including the adoption of ERP systems, unlock new efficiencies and improve decision making, maybe lead to more productivity and
Absolutely.
better yield. Just combining these two questions, it would be great to know your
Yeah.
perspective.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess that is the future. A great tool is not the word, but the best approach, the best bet to achieve sustainability and look into the future is precisely all these technological advancements that will and actually are bringing down to a handheld model to the farmer, this knowledge. The farmers are not dumb. They know a lot of things. However, there oftentimes there is a lack of data to support their decisions. And these solutions, they will bring data, and it's a perfect bridge for the technological content that is created in the academia, in the different research institutes, right? And the different wealth of knowledge that it is out there to put it, bundle all together in this handheld solution, and the farmer can have firsthand answers to the questions they may have. Of course, there are extensionists, there are technicians, and they continue to play a big role. However, they will have a first glimpse, a first approach, first answer to the questions they may have. And I guess this is a great opportunity for the farmers to know more about their operation, to know, to pinpoint perfectly or accurately what is actually working fine, so they can continue building upon these things that are working fine actually. And yeah, to use it as a tool for decision making. Yeah, it's not just because my grandpa used to do that, but really, okay, I have here the data. For this amount, I should be doing this, and I am not getting there. What is happening? It starts a conversation with with the people that they can rely, they have trust and confidence to go and say, okay, I have this, these are my results of my soil analysis. What should I be doing? What are the options? What about this particular fertilizer, this formula? What about I have this picture of my tree that is looking sad? What I am supposed to do? Should I be trimming the tree? Should I be stumping the tree? Should I be already uprooting the tree? Etc. Etc. All of these can be in real time almost. And then the cycle of decision making gets shorter, right? So I guess this is a great opportunity to actually adapt and thrive under these challenging circumstances, talking about the climate and the economic aspects that I was just referring.
I think, yeah, definitely I agree with all the points that you have just mentioned. It's very crucial for like real time decision making. I think farming is like adopting technology at a very unprecedented rate, and I believe that it's a very high time that that digital transformation is really pushed forward. And yeah, I think that's the need of the time. I think we are past time, Alfredo. It was really a pleasure talking to you, and I think it was wonderful for our audience as well as for me as well to hear you talk and know your thoughts around coffee. I think it were these were all really new and very in-depth insights that we have gotten from the coffee industry. We haven't really worked a lot upon the coffee side, but these were really valuable insights that we were actually looking for.
Absolutely.
I think that's the purpose of these conversations. We really got to learn
Absolutely.
a lot.
Listen, I
Mhm.
remain available if you want a follow-up conversation or if you want to develop anything in particular, just pick me. I'm available and
Definitely.
I'm looking forward. If I can contribute with my experience and my insights, perfect. Even better.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get maybe something comes up and we might need your expertise.
Absolutely. No, don't feel obliged, but I am really happy to collaborate in something that makes
Great.
is has some value. Like project that you guys are having.
Perfect. It was a
All
pleasure,
right.
Alfredo. Again, thank you so much.
Bye bye. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye bye.
Ciao.
You too. Ciao.